So we're going to start with personalizing your profile. Anytime you get into a new AI platform, you want to make sure that the platform understands as much about you as possible. So when you have future interactions, those interactions don't have to have new context built every single time. So what we're going to do to start off our entire experience with the platform is we're going to personalize our profile. We're going to go down in the bottom left and we're going to click into either your name or your company, depending on where the platform's at. You're going to click into personalization, and then you'll see a screen here in ChatGPT that has a series of different opportunities for you to customize your profile. At the very top, there's several different settings that you can adjust as far as how it's going to interact with you and how it's going to respond to you. In the custom instructions, if you don't have anything in here yet, it should look something like this. And the custom instructions are meant to be able to guide the interaction with ChatGPT so that you're going to have it interact with you the way that you want. As an example, I'll show you what I have in this box. There's a lot more than just what you can see on the screen. So when it comes to leveraging AI, I want it to understand how I operate, how I like to interact, how I like to speak. I want it to act as a thought partner and a strategic advisor. I don't want it to be a yes man. I want it to have a business casual tone. And honestly, I've updated the tone as many, many times because for just saying something like a business casual tone, that doesn't describe who you are, doesn't describe how you interact. And so you need to be as detailed as possible, but not feeling like you have to make it perfect. At any point in time, you can come in here and you should be editing this to get the best interactions you possibly can. So you'll see as we keep going through here, I've left it on the screen for a little bit so you can read. I want to go through and I want it to just have a lot of the guardrails in place for how I want it to operate. Now, I do say be careful with facts. Don't hallucinate, guess, or invent answers. That's not going to keep this from hallucinating, and it's not going to keep it from identifying false facts as being true. And so there is a certain level of discernment that still needs to be added, but I like to think that it's going to help guide it a little bit more when I have these instructions for it. Once you've updated your custom instructions, I want you to go down to About You, and I want you to fill out some information about you that you don't want to have to keep telling it over and over again. And so you can see I've given it my name, my company that I operate with, and then there's the More About You section. And I like to think that the more that we can give, the better our experience will be, the more unique it will be, the more comfortable we are. Think about this as we're training the new hire that we just brought on to our organization, who's a partner with us to accomplish a lot of the goals of what we're trying to do with the organization. And that new hire is ridiculously smart, has access to more tools than you can possibly imagine, but doesn't really understand us, what we're doing as a business, why we operate, how we operate. So you can see I've gone through and I've described what my company is, what we do as a company. I've given a little bit of background on who I am. I'm a past audit partner, I'm a CPA. I also focus on ISO 42001, which is AI management systems. And so I wanted to understand that. I've given it some information about my family because as I'm going through and I say something like, hey, I'd love to plan for a weekend trip with my family, or I'd love to know what's going on in Nashville this weekend. Can you help me put together something that would be great for my family? By me saying those words, I'm able to allow ChatGPT to understand, okay, well, I have a family, so maybe I should be getting a response that fits my two daughters and my wife. Maybe it's something that I could bring my dog to. The other thing that I really like to have people do is if you've done any personality tests, this is optimal for giving to a AI platform to really understand what makes you tick. And so you can see I used Clifton Strengths. I'm a big fan of that personality test, but a Myers Briggs, an Enneagram, brain colors, any of these types of personality tests that are going to really get into who you are and how you tick is going to be great for AI to know. So we're going to go through and document both our custom instructions, any of the characteristics we want, and we're going to touch on the more about you. Now, how do we go about doing this? Because as we all experience, a blank box that looks like this is going to be very difficult to capture as much of the information as possible. And you may not know what information is the best information to be documenting. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to take 2 screenshots. You might need to take 3 depending on the size of your screen. So if you just hit Windows Shift S and you take a snip, and then you come over to, we'll go ahead and, wrong button. We'll come over here and we will paste that snip. And now I'm going to go back over and I'm going to scroll down a little bit. I'll clear this out so it looks like what the average person's going to see. And then take one more snip. And I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to paste that second snip. And so now instead of me having to describe everything that I'm experiencing, everything I'm doing, what I'm trying to accomplish, I can be sitting here and just give a snip of my screen that captures a lot more context than it would ever give to a normal prompt if I'm just typing it out to ChatGPT or any other AI platform. Now, a couple other things that we're going to cover here. The first is that we're going to be dictating to AI. So we're going to be using this microphone rather than talking or rather than typing to AI. I can come in here and I can say, I need some help filling this out. Help me, right? Or I can come in here and I can talk to it, and in the same amount of time, I can give an unbelievable amount of more context. So I'm setting up my profile within ChatGPT for the first time. I want to make sure that my interactions are as personalized as possible. And so I've been guided to go over and personalize the information that's in the screenshots that I've given you. I don't really know what information I should be putting into those boxes. And I don't know what information is most helpful to guide you. And so I want you to interview me. I want you to ask me as many questions as are necessary, probably stop around 5 or 6, so that you can understand what you need to know about me to guide me into filling out these boxes. As an output, once we finish with those questions, I want to be able to just copy and paste the output into each one of these boxes so that I don't have to go in and do that or copy that, type that information in myself. Couple things that I want you to experience as we're looking at that. The amount of context and information I've given here is significantly greater than if I were to go ahead and try to type all of that. I'm not going through and getting rid of my so's, my ahs, my ums, although the ahs and the ums, it's gotten pretty good at eliminating. I'm not going in and trying to say like, okay, well, I stuttered here or I changed something here. I said, I want you to ask as many questions as necessary. And then I changed that. And I said, we'll probably stop around 5 or 6. So I don't need to get rid of the as many questions as necessary part, because AI is smart and AI can navigate through this the same way that new partner that we brought into the organization is going to be able to navigate through it. This is called the flipped interaction approach. This is where we have AI interview us because we don't know how AI can do its most optimal work for us. And so we just ask it, I want you to interview me. I want you to guide me through what's necessary so that I can get to a solution that's going to be really good for me. I'm going to go ahead and send that prompt, and you'll go ahead and see that it's going to work through putting together the questions that are necessary to be able to guide me along in the way that I want to. Now, one of the things that I want you to also understand is that you're in charge here. If there's something in this that it's saying, like, when I respond, what should I optimize for? I don't just have to pick for these assumptions. It's great because it gets me thinking, but I can add anything I want to, whether it's responding to this question or any of these questions, or whether it's just like, you know what, I just thought about the fact that I have a personality test I want to add, and the personality test hasn't been added anywhere in here. So I'm just going to give the context and say, hey, I think this is something that would also be valuable. You're in charge. We want to make sure that we get the information that's necessary to ChatGPT.